Organizational strategy deals with the choices the organization makes that define how it relates as a whole to the external environment. Because the organization's external environment is a constant state of change, strategy is an ongoing and continual process. Therefore, effective strategy is not being reactive to change, but proactively anticipating the need for change, planning appropriately, and implementing that change consistently. Similar to structure, strategic choices are long term in nature and difficult to adjust effectively in the short term. Hence, an understanding of strategy is critical to an organization to achieve superior results over the long term. In addition to understanding strategy, selecting and implementing that strategy is of even greater importance, especially for health service organizations that operate in an industry that is subject to greater levels of change and oversight. By definition, strategy provides the means to accomplish the mission, vision, and objectives for the total organization. This focuses on the organization as a whole rather than individual units or parts of the organization. The other defining element of strategy is an external focus, a view that the organization does not stand alone but is part of a dependent, even wider environment. Remember, our society has become a society of organizations. Most all of our tasks are being done in and by organizations, and most public goals are achieved through them. Therefore, we need a strong strategy. The historical roots of organizational theory can be found in the concepts developed during the Industrial Revolution in the late 19th and early 20th century. However, more recently, our smart MBAs and other scientists and practitioners have found useful ways to really implement strong strategies that take different theories of the organization. Consider Kotz and Kahn's 1978 open systems theory. They take these theories and they transform them to being even more successful. Reference Kotz and Kahn's framework here. You'll see that they take inputs into the organization and transform these inputs into outputs. The outputs are then recycled back into the environment and they eventually possibly become inputs once again. These activities require the use of human material and financial resources. An organization must be able to obtain the necessary input resources, whether that's the employees, supplies, materials, capital, etc. They need to get these inputs from the environment and efficiently transform the resources to outputs. It is these outputs that provide for another external resource, for instance, dollars, that the organization can acquire to get more inputs and create more outputs. That being said, organizations need to create more outputs than they consume. In addition, the organization must produce outputs that are needed and valued by purchasers. Therefore, this is where strategy comes into play. Organizational strategy is both a process and a mindset or a way of viewing the environment. From a process standpoint, strategy is an integrated approach, including assessing the organization and its environment, developing and selecting long-term organizational directions, and then implementing those strategies and initiatives that will lead to accomplishing the vision and goals. This strategic process, however, also requires an executive mindset that an organization can and will choose its own direction and be successful in achieving its own vision. The ideal strategic environments combines an appropriate strategic mindset with an effective strategic process. That process includes assessment, development, implementation, and evaluation. When we think about assessment, we want to truly understand what is going on in our organization. These parts are truly highly interrelated, and if we can really understand the values of our organization, what's going on in our internal and external environments, and also what's going on with our competitors, we'll be able to develop a strong strategic plan. Now, when we develop our strategy, we need to have our vision and mission set because that's what's going to determine the long term direction of our organization. That long term direction is going to have initiatives that fall out that align with each objective. There's going to be long term objectives, and then there's also going to be some medium short term objectives. The key to a successful implementation of strategy is being able to integrate with the daily operations of the organization and still keep that conceptual high level strategy close by. A well thought out and thorough process of reflecting strategy in the daily decisions of middle and lower management can substantially increase the likelihood of strategic ideas and plans coming into reality. Some of the short term things that you can manage are your budget, keep an eye on your annual objectives, looking at your policies, as the strategic process often influences the policies and procedures, and also looking at your management systems as a whole. In fact, you want to do all of these things in effective retrospectives. The final stage of the strategic planning process is evaluating your strategy. In fact, after year end, and as the first step in the new strategic cycle, management should evaluate the effectiveness of the prior year's strategy, including accomplishment and misses, to truly understand how they should go forward in the following year. This gives a structure that can play a dual role in the strategic planning process. However, it's important that the senior leadership does not just plan from the top down. Remember, organizations are very complex, and for a strategy to be effective, the top down leadership needs to get input from the frontline individuals doing the work. That way, everyone throughout the system has a voice in the development of the strategy, and they're more likely to get bought in and want to champion initiatives and actions that are going to make that strategy being revealed and being successful. Strategy plays a critical role in organizational success. Through a small number of major decisions, effective strategy guides the organization through changing environments, conflicting stakeholder demands, and uncertain economic and regulatory times, especially in the healthcare industry. Therefore, the strategic planning process can provide an integrated approach to environmental assessment, strategy development, implementation, and most important, evaluation.